Hello and welcome to episode 315 of Sutton and Back Family Style. I'm sorry I missed calling out Pi Day last week with our 3F14 episode, but it happens. I'm Jason.
It does. Well, let's start with the Pirates.
Yeah, we're going to kick it off with Major League Baseball, and not just baseball, but the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And I am so excited. I'm flying to Pittsburgh Tuesday to see three Pirate games versus the Dodgers. So, I mean, a team that is spending probably 4 times the Pirates' payroll.
Yeah.
Probably,
yeah, easily.
Yeah. And the Pirates are third in the major leagues in wins.
Yeah.
And off to their best start in more than 20 years. And I'm excited because I believe.
And we should point out for people that aren't paying attention, the last great Pirate player outside of Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen, is back from the last time the Pirates were good, almost 20 years ago.
And playing well.
Yeah, playing, you could argue all-star level baseball right now.
Yeah.
20-something games into the season for whatever that's worth, but, you know, he's talked about it. Like, when he puts on the black and gold, he just feels different.
He's been gone for 8 years, and he looks like the player that he was when he left.
Yeah.
So
He
I'm
looks
really
like-
excited about that.
He looks like the pre-haircut Andrew McCutchen right now, which is very exciting.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. He still has not the hair, but he looks like he's playing when he had the Samson-like quality of hair. He was killing people.
So I'm excited. I've got my annual sweet night on Wednesday night. My brother's coming in on Tuesday. My cousin Kevin will be there. All my friends I grew up with. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll all be there for once in the last who knows how many years to see a really good team. Everybody will probably pay attention to the baseball game, which they haven't done for the last 5 years.
No, it's exciting.
And of course, we're already planning out the food moments.
Of course.
And since I'm with my brother, I can tell you it's going to be a pizza extravaganza.
Yes. And I guess we could, the success the Pirates are having is sort of a micro baseball level, right? Because baseball games, we've had a number of games under 2 hours.
Yes.
Which seems
we had a double header with just under 4.5 hours.
Which is incredible.
Which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. The only negative I've heard so far is the concern over beer sales, and beer sales being down because the games are faster and shorter. Which seems
so now they want to extend beer into the 8th inning.
Yeah.
So you really don't have time to recover before you drive.
But
and so and I understand the argument, okay?
Yeah.
Tough. I mean, and the counter argument I hear is, well, people go to bars and they drive home after they leave the bar. And that's not a good argument.
It's not a good argument.
Should be, you cut off the beer sales when you sit here and cut them off.
I suppose, but I will offer this as a former bartender of almost a decade, all through undergrad and grad school. I will say, when the bar closes at 2 and last call is at 1:45 to 1:50, it's fairly pointless. And, having gone to a number of sporting events, you typically just buy 2 beers in the 7th inning. So,
or 3.
Or 3, yeah. So it's not like you're, if people are responsible, they need to be responsible. And again, there's never been an easier time with ride shares and everything else.
No, everything's there for you.
Yeah.
You just got to be an adult, right?
Right, which happens, not very often. But I can say, having had a roommate who had a DUI when I was in grad school, I won't say his name, but if you're listening, hello, you know who you are. People really need to do research on what it takes, because if he wasn't someone who could edit from home, it affects your job. It affects the cost, there's some. You want to be an adult.
Yeah, it's real ramifications.
Yeah, there's real world. You're gonna get got, and yeah. But if you're baseball, that's a great problem to have. It seems like the changes you implemented are going well. I guess the only semi-negative story I've heard, and this is really probably not negative for the rest of baseball, but that if the Angels lose and continue to lose, that Shohei Ohtani may not want to be there anymore.
And I tweeted about this week. It's mind-boggling that you could have a team with 2 of the best players in all of baseball.
Historically,
and
almost.
still suck.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And they're not a cheap organization.
What is it?
They're not a cheap organization either.
No.
They spend money. Yeah. They remind me a little bit of. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about them in the next segment, but of all the years of being a pseudo Knicks fan, like the Knicks as an organization always spent money, always made moves. They just kept making the wrong moves and spending the wrong amount of money. And I don't know if the Angels are doing
I
that.
almost
But
have to think it's a cultural thing now at the Angels.
yeah,
It's like in the movie The Natural. I mean, I just think they expect to lose.
I think so. And again, selfishly, I wouldn't mind Ohtani in another uniform at this point. If the Angels are going to continue to be the Angels, despite spending a lot of money and having arguably the two best players in all of baseball, I want to see him on the big stage again, like he was in the World Classic, right?
Yeah.
We want him in the playoffs.
Well, I'll be going to an Angels game in a couple weeks, and I'm excited to do that. It'll be on a Friday night before our show.
Nice.
But baseball, I think this might be a rarity. I don't think we've ever started to show off with baseball.
No. Yeah.
Especially in the middle of the NBA playoffs.
Right. But this seemed like, based on our love of the Berg and, just baseball really, I feel like this is some of the most significant rule changes I've seen applied to a sport in my lifetime.
Very significant. And, if you think about it, if the games are shorter, and that's a legitimate concern, right?
Right.
People always said the games drag, the games are too long. Then more people will come. Then you'll sell more beer, and you won't have to worry about it after the seventh inning.
Yeah, and that's what they've said. Hopefully, with games being shorter, you can also maybe move a couple of time slots up a little earlier. And as people have pointed out, if it's a 7:00 start or a 6:30 start or a 6:00 start East Coast time, like you could take a child to a Tuesday night game now, if it's going to be 2 hours and they're home and in bed by 9, as opposed to maybe they're home by 11 on a school night, which is a very different, youth being the key.
The Pirates' starting time is 6:35.
That's nice, yeah.
And so technically that could be done by 9:00.
Yeah, you could be, depending on where you live, you're home and the kid's not staying out ridiculously, especially if it's a late in the week game. Yeah, and that's pretty key.
It's pretty key. Well, let's talk NBA.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I want to start off saying that you and I have been unabashed in our love for Russell Westbrook.
It's very true.
In the last 2 games, Russell Westbrook has been Russell Westbrook. So I'm saying that I don't think that the Lakers and the Wizards and the clubs ever used him the way they needed to use him. He's back. He's confident again. He's Russ.
I think it's fair to say the Wizards, he had a really nice run where he came in for that last Washington run. They just didn't have a very talented team. The Lakers situation, you could argue the fit was bad from day one, but I felt, and I don't know if it's the organization, the press, LeBron, because LeBron's connected to a lot of this, but it felt like, considering LeBron was not LeBron for most of those games, and especially during the regular season, wasn't really balling out. AD couldn't stay on the floor, and yet it seemed like every story was Russ. And it was just like, if you're in that negative of a situation, you're probably not going to be very happy there, right?
No.
If you got, the biggest star on your team passively aggressively tweeting and saying things under his breath, and
No, and I'm just happy that because I know Russ, getting waived for a player that caliber, is terrible, and so I'm just glad that he's asserted himself. Now that team's not going anywhere without Kawhi and without Paul George, but when he's the only option on the floor and you still can't stop him, it's impressive. And whenever he wants to go to the hoop, he's gone to the hoop.
Now, the Russ haters have been out in full force again. You know what they're talking about now, Dad? That if Russ had been this defensive player for the last decade, and it's just like, enough. He's playing great basketball. Just shut up. Just admit you're wrong.
Let him be there now.
Yeah.
Just accept what he's done. He's come into a situation and excelled.
But moving forward.
Let's talk about some team stuff now.
Yeah.
So, Memphis and the Lakers. I don't see any way Memphis beats the Lakers.
No, you got everything you could out of Ja last night. And
LeBron had just decided that this is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And if AD stays on the floor, which, contrary to what we thought, is happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
he did come out really flat in game 2, the game they lost. And It was one of those, like, who are you? Like, I just, It's that AD frustration, if you will.
But they get Austin Reeves and Rudy Hachimura, who have played outstanding.
Janet Vanderbilt, yeah, they finally put a team around AD and LeBron that makes sense. So
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it makes sense. It's a logical team. It's a team that LeBron can make better without them being dependent upon those players that do more than they're capable of.
Yeah.
But LeBron is playing at another level right now.
He is. He definitely is.
Okay. Warriors Kings.
I think
probably the best series.
Yeah, between this and the Knicks Cavs, yeah, I think by far the best series. As we said offline, I am rooting for the Kings. I'm ready for the Warriors to stick a fork in the Warriors. But I thought that Game 3 was a real opportunity because, I mean, what the Kings do best is score. And I know they were home and you're playing against Steph Curry and you're playing against Clay and the Warriors, but you had no Draymond out there, who's one of the better defenders. I thought this was your chance to just really put them away. And instead, you inspired them and made them angry.
Well, that's why. Is it today's game? Yeah, today's game. It's got to be is a pivotal game. I don't see. The Warriors are going to have to win in Sacramento. I don't know if I see that happening.
Right, because as they say, what's the cliche? A series doesn't begin until somebody loses at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm leaning Warriors right now just because.
Okay.
If I was betting, that's
I don't think it's going to matter because I think the Suns are going to win the West.
I'm holding out hope that this next series we'll talk about is the winner of the West, and that's the team up 3-0, the Denver Nuggets, who are playing some real nice basketball right now.
But they're playing Timberwolves.
They are, but I mean, it's Michael Porter Jr. looks really good. DeJounte Murray is finally looking a little like bubble Murray again, which is nice. So,
but the Timberwolves, as Kenny Smith would say, look like they're ready to go fishing.
Oh yeah, I think they've been ready to go fishing since the Gobert punch.
Since they probably had no business being in there.
No. And much like the Clippers, that's a playoff team that finds themselves like, if you're the Kings and you lose in their first round to the, defending champion Golden State Warriors in 6 or 7 games, I think you feel pretty good about yourselves.
Yep.
When Oklahoma City, just got into the play-in, won a play-in game, lost, I think you feel pretty good about yourselves. I think the Cavs and Knicks, regardless of what happens, you feel pretty good. But if you're the Timberwolves or the Clippers, I think you feel pretty hopeless. You have very few future picks coming. And what you have, especially the Clippers, with, Paul George once again not even playing, and Kawhi unavailable for probably the rest of the playoffs based on what, the rumors about his knee. Like, where do you go from here?
I just don't know. And there's not enough pieces there.
No.
Without those two. And you have too many resources committed to 2 players.
Yeah. And I would say based on where he was at coming out of the league, you'll probably be able to bring Russ back if you want. But, without George and Kawhi, that's you put your entire team to those 2 guys. So.
And I'm hoping that Russ wants to stay in L.A.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get
home wherever he is and just realize that, going somewhere else might not be the best move. This is working. Stay here.
Yeah, I think so.
He's appreciated. He's valued. The fans love him. Stay there.
Get him on a nice 2-year 1-and-1 kind of deal. Maybe 1 year guaranteed player option for the second, whatever it is.
Yeah, something.
That feels fair.
Okay. The Suns are going to win their series. There's no question. Suns-Denver will be a good series.
Yeah. How about Knicks-Cavs with the Knicks 2-1?
I think the Knicks are going to win that series for one reason. They're nastier.
They are. They really, really are.
And the Cavs are soft. If the Cavs aren't soft, they at least appear to be soft.
The Knicks feel like they've still got some of that 90s DNA, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the Knicks look like they're just too physical for the Cavs.
Yeah.
And I like the Cavs. I like that team. they're just not tough enough to play the Knicks. It's a bad matchup for them.
It is. And it's their first time in the playoffs, with this squad. And like I said, I think you have a bright future if you're the Cavs, but it's probably not this year.
No, and you got to add somebody that's going to make them tougher.
Yeah, I mean, Donovan Mitchell's tough, but you need,
Yeah, you need another veteran player to join that team.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
I mean,
Boston, Atlanta?
Atlanta looked really good, but hopefully that was just, the last gasp of a dying man sort of situation. Because I'm ready for Boston and the team waiting for them who just swept the Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers.
That'll be a great series.
It should be. Embiid should be back for that game, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Harden has looked shaky, though, because I know they won last night, but he was 4 of 18 from the floor. But Maxey looked great. Harris looked great. The rest of our team looked really good. But it should be pointing out they're playing a Nets team that only has the 6th seed because they had Kevin Durant to start the season. And they just went backwards once they lost him. Now, Bridges is a nice piece they picked up, and they've got a bright future, I think, with some of those draft picks they have coming. But, yeah.
Yeah, I like where Brooklyn is. I like where they're going to be.
Yeah.
And I think, I felt bad for them because they really, you had to get rid of KD, and the Kyrie thing. It was a tough situation. But actually, I think, with what they have and how they draft and how they build that team, they're going to be better off in the long run.
Yeah, they just got to get rid of the Ben Simmons problem, and I think that'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And then I guess the most surprising series and disappointing because of Giannis' injury, the Miami Heat are up 2-1. And
now the two best players on each team are both questionable. Jimmy Butler hit hard on his tailbone.
He did.
And I don't expect him to play the next game. And so I don't know if I expect Giannis to play, but if Giannis comes back and there's no Jimmy Butler, then that series will be 2-2. And then we'll see what happens after that. But it's a shame that two of the marquee players, didn't finish that game yesterday.
And I guess this is the perfect transition to we need to stop. Hopefully it's just a small thing, but you do have some people pushing for the NBA to ban the charge, which has been part of basketball since day one. So
right.
And as people pointed out, I think Oklahoma City Thunder pointed out, some other people pointed out, like, do you want 250 to 250 games? Like, you've got to give the defense something. And, like, it's not the charge that's hurting people. It's people throwing themselves recklessly into the hoping to get a call. Like, it's not the act of the charge that's hurting people. It's the aggressiveness of the offensive player foul hunting and diving into players recklessly that's really doing the damage, I think. And I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. I don't want to make that's too drastic of a rule change.
Yeah.
I would like to see it enforced more consistently.
Yeah.
And I think if you enforced it more consistently, maybe that would help.
Yeah, and like, I know this sort of goes back to what's a catch is a catch from the NFL, but did you see the one where Sabonis got the charge and then they recalled the charge because his back of his heel was on the dotted line, the half circle?
Yep.
That was a charge to me still. He was clearly planted, and I know the rule is you got to have both feet outside of the circle, and his heel was on the circle, so technically by the letter of the law, but I'm like, he was in place, the offensive player barreled into him, that's a charge. So,
yep.
I don't know.
Well, let's talk about the one rule we would like to see.
Okay.
If you hit somebody in the groin, we both think you should be ejected.
Yeah. I mean, that's a completely unsportsmanlike, unhuman-like act that is completely unnecessary. And that's not a heat of the moment, like, as awful as the Draymond Green and the Joel Embiid kick stomp situations were, you could at least those were in like the heat of a moment of an angry situation where the hit in the nuts is just, you're trying to cheat the game and hurt another player, and that's just dirty and wrong.
No, in the Harden situation, Harden uses it all the time.
Yeah.
But I will give LeBron an Emmy for yesterday because I don't know how hard he got hit. But he went down awful quick. He went down like he got hit by a sniper.
He did. Well, he's got the production company and he's been in a few movies, so,
He knows.
He's putting the work in.
Well, this is the week of the draft.
It's a very exciting week.
So the story today with the Talking Heads was that Houston won't take a quarterback with the number 2 pick.
Yeah. I kind of get it. Like, if you're not in love with any of these guys and you're Houston, you're going to be bad next year. And you have Caleb Williams of USC coming out. And you have that Drake May of North Carolina, both who are considered as good, if not better, than all the prospects this year. And then you probably have two or three other guys pop up like they do every year. Like, you know, one quarterback is, if it's a quarterback you don't believe in, there's no point in putting him on your team.
I mean, Caleb Williams looks like Vince Young, Lamar Jackson,
Yeah, he's incredible.
but with a better pocket sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's special.
And he doesn't have any sort of physical holdbacks. You know, he's not a Bryce
Yeah.
Young where you're like, you know, if he wasn't 5'9" or whatever, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
he's got the size, he's got the athletic ability, he's got the pocket presence. He looks incredible. And if I'm Houston and I think I got a shot at that next year, then, you know, I'm probably going to roll with it. Because, I mean, we've talked. I don't really like Levis. I wouldn't draft Hayden Hooker as a 25-year-old coming off an ACL. If I was going to take somebody I would probably take Anthony Richardson based on the lottery ticket potential if I was going to take somebody, you know?
Yeah.
If I'm taking the most athletic quarterback ever and he's 6'4", 240 pounds, and he throws the ball very naturally and very nice, you know?
If I'm Seattle, that's my pick.
Yeah.
Because I get 2 years of Geno Smith.
And I've got, you know, a team in place that knows how to work with quarterbacks. Yeah, like, because again, he's the most physically gifted quarterback maybe ever at this stage. A 4'4", 40 at 250 pounds and 6'4" with a natural throwing motion, like, that's incredible, you know?
Yeah. But my question always comes back to the same thing. Why didn't Florida win more games?
Yeah, and why was he so inaccurate? I know. Yeah, those are great questions.
Yeah.
Those were his first starts in football, though, so, you know. I'm looking right now at the latest Matt Miller ESPN draft. And they have the Houston Texans taking Will Anderson Jr., who's probably been the most quiet consensus top 5 player in the history of the NFL draft, I think.
Yes, I think so.
Because, I mean, they're saying he's one of the best pass rushers to come out in a while, and he's fantastic, and it's like, he's just such an afterthought. They have Tyree Wilson, the defensive end from Texas Tech, who looks the part, going third. They have the Colts taking a quarterback. They have Seattle getting Jalen Carter, and it's hard to imagine Jalen Carter getting past 5, right? I know he's had a rough offseason, but, I mean, he's the most talented player in the draft. They have the Lions taking Witherspoon. They have the Raiders grabbing Anthony Richardson with the 7th pick. The Falcons taking Nolan Smith out of Georgia. They have the Bears, Lucas Van Ness. Eagles taking Christian Gonzalez. Tennessee taking Will Levis. Houston going with a wide receiver and Jackson Smith and Jigba at 12. Now we finally got to run on tackles where the New York Jets take Paris Johnson Jr. The Patriots take Stromnoski. They've got the Green Bay Packers taking Dalton Kincaid, the tackle. The Commanders taking Joey Porter Jr. And we'll stop here with our Steeler pick. This has Darnell Wright, the offensive tackle of Tennessee, falling to the Steelers at pick 17. Which,
And I love that pick.
we love that pick. He played fantastic last year. He shut down Will Anderson, and he shut down one of the other top pass rushers in the SEC.
But where did C.J. Stroud go?
Where do they have C.J. Stroud go? 'Cause I didn't read him, did I? Oh, we went forward of the Colts.
Okay. That's who the Colts took.
Yeah. Yeah, according to this offensive draft, the Steelers will have their choice of my 2 favorite tackles, either Darnell Wright or Broderick Jones, and they go with Wright, and I like that pick. So, and they have Bijan Robinson, supposedly a second best player in the draft, falling to 21 to the Chargers. And, you know, and they have a 5th quarterback, Hayden Hooker, going to the Vikings at 23.
Yeah, I've seen that pick quite a bit.
Yeah.
That means if the Chargers take Bijan Robinson, that means there's an Austin Eckler trade that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would, you know what, as much as I like Austin Eckler, I'd rather have B.J. Robinson.
Oh, yeah. Bijan Robinson they said he's like a slightly better Saquon Barkley. And Barkley's been incredible.
Yep.
Because as we talked about in the past, part of the narrative around don't take a running back early, I think has more to do with where your team is at. Like a running back, the average lifetime of a running back is 3 years, and you're rarely going to sign a running back to a second contract, which means the reason you don't have a lot of high picks in the playoffs is because the good teams aren't picking high. And if you're taking a running back in the top 10, by the time you were ready to compete, that running back's probably, on the tail end of his career, sadly. It's a real bummer.
Well, I'm not going to be surprised if the Cowboys trade up to get him.
Yeah. I wouldn't either.
That just seems like a Jerry Jones pick.
It does.
Well, it's going to be a fun week. We've waited so long for this.
We have.
And we will be discussing the first couple rounds on our show next Sunday.
Yeah.
The haves, the have-nots, the surprises, the trades.
Well, I'll give you the rest of this draft, Ed, of the Steelers in the first 2 rounds, according to this Matt Miller on ESPN's latest. They have the Steelers taking Kylie Ringo with the first pick of the second round. Cornerback, who was thought to be like a top 10 pick entering the season, and he's fallen out of favor a little bit.
Okay.
And then I like the 49 pick, which is Joe Tippmann, which is that 6'6" center out of Wisconsin, who's just a beast at the line of scrimmage. Mason Cole is a really nice starter. I like him, but I think if you could upgrade to Tippmann with the 49th pick, I think you would. If you had Wright, Pittman, and the people you added and the people you already have in place, I think you would have an elite offensive line for years to come.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I'd be very happy with that. And Kylie Ringo, I don't know enough about corners, outside of, our favorite corner they have going early in the first round, which is Emmanuel Forbes, the 166-pound cornerback out of Mississippi.
Where do they have him going?
I think to Detroit late in the first.
Oh, with their second pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, you have 14 picks in the SEC, 6 return for touchdowns, and you shut down every wide receiver you see. I'll live with your 166-pound frame. I think we can figure it out.
Well, I got to have a hockey moment.
Okay, let's do it.
I went to the Lightning game last night, and the Lightning are winning 3-2 with less than a minute left. Toronto pulls the goalie and get about 3-4 shots in a row before they make one, and they win. They force it to overtime, then they win in overtime. And the whole time I sat and watched that game, you could just sense one team's better than the other one.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact the Lightning was leading, I never thought the Lightning was the best team. I thought Toronto was a better team than the Lightning. Much quicker, much more aggressive. Didn't have as many shots as the Lightning. The Lightning had a lot of shots. Couldn't put it in.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel that the Toronto's going to advance and beat the Lightning. Then I won't have any interest in hockey at all because Penguins and the Lightning will be not non-players in June, or May.
Okay. I think we normally go.
I got an entertainment moment.
Okay.
So I'd been out of town and I watched episode 5 and episode 6 of Ted Lasso. Episode 6 of Ted Lasso is called The Sunflower.
Okay.
And I will tell you, it's either the first or second best episode in the entire series.
Okay.
It's one of those episodes that makes the Ted Lasso series Ted Lasso series.
All right.
It's just really, 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 really good. So those of you that watch it, go back. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it. I don't want to spoil it. And if you've watched it, watch it again. It's just so well done.
Well, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, I don't have any food or entertainment moments this week.
And I've got a food moment that occurred on my last day in Columbia. Somebody said, "You like a good burger?" And I said, "I love a good burger." And they said, "Go to Max Cash Grocery." And I said, "All right." So we drove down, and we were there at 11. I want to say 11:20, 11:25.
Okay.
And there's already a line in the back door to go in, place your order. So you actually go through the back door when it's really busy, because that's the only place you can line up because the front's on the street. So you go to the back door, and there's a lady sitting on a freezer, and she takes your order. And then by the time you get to the cash register, your food is done. And my friend Andy told me that they win every year for best burger and best hot dog. So the next time I go, I have to have a hot dog. But I had a double cheeseburger and onion rings. And it's a grill and 2 fryers. And that's how they make all the food.
Yeah.
But it's just really, really good. I don't, when you have a good burger, it's just a good burger.
It's true.
So I don't know. It was great. I thought it was tremendous.
And not that it's necessarily a bad sign, but if you make only a couple things and you're very successful, that means you probably make it really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, they had burgers and
Right.
cheeseburgers. They had double cheeseburgers. They had chili cheeseburgers. I mean, they're all chili cheese dogs. Just derivatives of the same thing. And then French fries and onions.
Yeah, that's a nice menu.
It's a nice menu. That's all you need.
Yeah, you know what you're going there for.
Because you're not going there to get a steak.
No.
You're going there because you want a hamburger.
Very true. So we'll be back
If you're
next week.
vegetarian, there was nothing for you.
It happens. I think that's okay. Like, it's nice to be inclusive, but sometimes it's like, you're probably not coming here if you're vegetarian. Even if you are, you're going to ask a million questions. It's going to be a pain in the butt. So,
Yeah.
this is what we do. Your friends can go take you to, somewhere else afterwards.
Well, I'll have the Pittsburgh food moments again, but we talked about them on the show. Tuesday's going to be Beato's on the way to the ballpark.
All right.
Wednesday
And
night is sweet night food, but we'll probably eat up in the strip somewhere Wednesday afternoon. And Thursday, it's a 12:30 game, so dinner will be at Fiore's on the way to the airport so that I can pack up whatever else I want to bring home with me.
fantastic. And next week,
I'll be thinking of you, Jake, because I know how much you like Fiore's.
I do, and it holds up, which is incredible. But next week
Yeah.
will be after the draft, and we will talk about how the Steelers have made the best picks ever, hopefully, and
And we'll talk about whether Lamar moved anywhere. Hopefully,
Aaron
hopefully see
Rodgers.
some things this week. I'm so
Yeah.
tired of hearing about Aaron Rodgers and Lamar.
And you also got D-Hop, maybe Trey Lance on the move. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, It could be really exciting.
Yeah.
And especially in a draft where it doesn't seem like people are in love with a lot of players in this draft. That it's a draft where we could have a lot of movement. So,
Well, let me ask you one last question before we wind up.
sure.
All right, so you're the 49ers, and now you're thinking about moving Trey Lance. All right?
Yeah.
Who you moved way up in the draft to get him when you drafted him.
Yeah.
All right, he hadn't done anything, couldn't stay healthy, couldn't be on the field. And now you got Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant,
And
and I guess he's going to be your guy.
who may miss the entire season because he basically had minor Tommy John surgery. Yeah.
So why do you get rid of Trey Lance?
I
So
suppose.
my other question is,
Yeah. Why would you
you're
want him?
somebody thinking about getting a quarterback, why do you want Trey Lance?
I think if let's say I'm the Texans, and I have 2 first-round picks this year, I don't want a quarterback this year. If I can maybe get him for a third, like because I'm going to have the second pick in the 3rd round, or maybe, something along those lines where I could take a flyer on him. Because he has all the physical tools.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the 49ers, it might just be a sunk cost point at this point where it's like, we can't get this kid on the floor. Can't get him on the field. Like, we just need to move on, whether you don't trust him medically or whatever.
It's
but
probably his best interest to move on, too.
Yeah, because sometimes that just, it's rare, but sometimes the best situation, even if down the line you're like, the 49ers shouldn't give up on him, it's like, it may not have been the right place for him to be.
Yeah.
I know they probably wouldn't trade him to Seattle, but that's not, you start to think of places where, or if you're Minnesota, I don't know if they would trade him to Minnesota, but if you could get him for, something later and his medicals check out and you've got a good staff in place. But again, he had a year of starting and then he had 1 start during COVID, no starts during his rookie season, or 1 start during his rookie season, 1 start during his sophomore season. So he started like 15 games of football in the last 5 years. So, I mean, it's kind of a luckily he got paid, but it's a very snake bit career, as they say.
Yeah. Well, one last comment.
Yeah.
Colorado sold out their spring game, sold out their season tickets.
They did.
Everybody's got prime fever in Colorado. What are you thinking?
I'm rooting for him.
I'm rooting for him too.
Like I said, I still was shocked that was it Auburn that brought him in and decided, to retread at, a white coach with a history of some off the field stuff you didn't like. To me, that seemed like if I was a program, it was like a middle tier program in the SEC, I would have begged to get Deion Sanders.
No question.
Because I feel like that would have flipped the recruiting in a heartbeat. Now all of a sudden, I'm the Georgia, I'm the Alabama right there, as opposed to, I'm on the outside looking in every season of the playoffs. But yeah, I think.
Now, how would you like to be Colorado now in a Pac-12 with no UCLA and no USC? You got to be looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And even if you went 8-4 next year in Colorado,
yeah,
or 7-5, you're a hero.
Yeah, the expectations are high, but you got to. I think you have a runway there to be good.
I think we can expect to see Colorado on national television for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. It's exciting. I mean, I'd be excited if I was there.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I think getting to play for Deion Sanders, who proved himself to be a pretty good coach in the lower ranks, and I think he's going to be a much more relatable player, and somebody that when you go into parents' rooms, like you look at the road he got to where he was. It's a 2-sport athlete and everything he's done, career wise, like, and how he's turned.
Credibility.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, enjoy the NBA playoffs. Enjoy the NHL playoffs. Enjoy MLB. Enjoy the draft. April and May are just a great time to be a sports fan.
Not bad at all.